This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. I hope I find you well. Not too cold, I hope. Also hope that you enjoyed the most recent episode where I spoke with Marco Kunauer about Germany and about Euro 2024. I hope you found some of his input helpful with regards to your own planning for the summer. It's getting ever closer, isn't it? I noticed that the 16th of January was 150 days to go. There you go. It'll soon come around. Hopefully, we'll speak once again nearer the time. Coming up on this episode, I'll once again be speaking with an England fan in the latest in the Your England Journey series. If you'd like to get involved and tell us when and where your England journey began and where it's taken you, drop me a line. Email 3lionspodcast@gmail.com. But before we get to that, let's just catch up on what's been going on since I last spoke to you. The FIFA Awards took place recently, and like the awards given out late last year, Mary Earps won the Best Goalkeeper in the women's category. And Serena Weigmann won the Best Coach. Congratulations to both of them. Although with the greatest of respect to Serena, FIFA, they couldn't really be awarding it to Jorge Vilda following the Spanish mess from last year, could they? As I say, congratulations anyway. But then the following day, it was announced that she had extended her contract as coach of the Lionesses until 2027, which is good news. That's a World Cup year for the women, so it'll be great to see her having another stab at it, hopefully go one step further than last year. If only we knew where it's going to be held, though. In a time where we know where the next two men's finals are going to be played, we don't even know where the next women's one will be, and it's 3 years away. You still have to ask the question, how seriously do FIFA take the women's game? But just so you know, the location is set to be announced on the 17th of May this year. There are currently 3 bids on the table. Brazil on their own, Mexico and the USA have joined forces, and the final bid comes as a 3-way European bid between Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany. We'll see. But back to those FIFA awards, there was nothing for the England men's side, although you could say Kyle Walker, John Stones and Jude Bellingham made it into the World 11. And for the women, 7 of the lineup featured Lionesses: Earps, Bronze, Greenwood, Toon, Walsh, James and Russo. So that's pretty cool. Now, the last episode, I mentioned the lack of information about the sale of the Belgium tickets. Now, the same day the pod came out, as did the news of the tickets. Coincidence, I'm sure. The reasoning given, and I quote, "The decision to delay ticket sales until late January has been made with fans firmly in mind. We understand what a challenging time of year this can be financially, particularly for our England Supporters Travel Club members who have had to pay for UEFA Euro 2024 tickets in December. We hope a post-January payday sale will alleviate any concerns or worries with fans and ensure everyone has a fair chance of securing a ticket for what is set to be a great encounter at Wembley." Whilst I agree, great stuff. Thank you. But why can't that be communicated when the fixtures were announced back on the 6th of November? Anyway, if you want to go, tickets are on sale for Travel Club members as of the 29th of January. General members, ticket period sale is the 2nd of February, and then general sale, 7th of February. Of course, nearer the time I will have a preview episode. There was some sad news recently announced that concerned one of our former managers, Sven-Göran Eriksson. England's manager from 2001 to 2006. He announced that he'd been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and has about a year left to live. Such sad news. I heard a feature on 5 Live Radio where someone made the point that when someone passes, they don't get to hear all those nice words and sentiments said about them. In this instance, we've all been quick to remember the good times, and I'm sure he'd have heard the outpouring of love, which will hopefully pick him up and appreciate it. But it's a strange situation to be in, I'm sure. But of course, the first thing the majority of us will think is Munich and that 5-1. But sending lots of love to Sven. And in due course, I'll cover Sven's time in the England Manager series. But I'm still to do Glenn Hoddle and Kevin Keegan before we get to Sven. Although one thing I can say is the Glenn Hoddle episode is coming very soon. So stay subscribed and you won't miss it. I'm sure you're aware that the January transfer window is currently open. In the past, I've run through the England-related players who have made a move. And I'll do that once again when it closes on Thursday, February the 1st. That door slams shut at 11 p.m. At time of recording, only 2 players of note have made a switch with regards to playing for England, with a third seemingly close to doing so. Might be a short episode come the time, but I guess that's to be expected. January isn't usually the busier of windows, is it? And what with clubs having to be very wary of how and when they spend, what with FFP, I don't know, there's still a while to go yet. Also, just looking into the future a little bit, an episode that I'm considering doing is a light-hearted Valentine's Day episode. Don't roll your eyes at me. It's not going to be a soppy one. More of an excuse to roll out a load of facts and remember some games and players. But if you've got a romantic anecdote that involves either England or the Lionesses, drop me a line. Happy to feature it. Maybe your first date was an England game. Maybe you met at the pub watching England on the telly. Maybe your honeymoon was England away. I don't know. Let me know. Wow, there was a little more there than I expected with regards to news since we last spoke. A lot can happen in a week, it seems. Okay, let's move on to the main bulk of this episode. It's another in the Your England Journey series. Okay, right, we're back with another in the Your England Journey series. We know there's good times, sad times, fun times, but they are your times. Love this feature. Welcome to the Three Lions podcast. Liverpool and England fan, James Harrison. Hello, James.
Hello, Russ. Thank you for allowing me onto your show.
Very welcome. You well?
Yeah, extremely well. Extremely busy. Absolutely delighted to have secured some fans' first tickets, which was a hell of a journey to get there, but I got there in the end.
You're in with the €30 job. Is that for all of them?
I believe so. I know. I'm hopeful, shall we say, Russ? I know I'm guaranteed final. I've got all three groups. I think round of 16, quarters, and semis. I was top 70%. But hey, look, beggars can't be choosers, I suppose.
Great stuff. Well, I mean, the Euros this year, yeah, it's something we're all looking forward to. We'll get on to the Euros, no doubt, as the pod goes on. But this is your England journey. I always kind of think I give people's ages away when I do this. You don't have to tell me, but take us back to your earliest England memory.
Yeah, not a problem. I was born in 1987, so I'm nearly 37 in February. Very, very, very soon, in a matter of weeks.
Well, happy birthday for then.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I was born in Walsall in the West Midlands, and then moved down to Somerset when I was about 10 years old, with my dad, to a place called Frome, where I now live, where Jensen Button famously hails from. And I can always remember my first England memories was, of course, Euro 96. And the reason why I say that, because I would have been around 9 at the time, because there was no World Cup in 2004. In 1994, there was no World Cup. So a lot of your other guests come on and they can say, yeah, probably about 6 or 7 years old, there was a big World Cup. Well, mine was taken away, probably from a dodgy linesman in Holland. So, but yeah, Euro 96. And actually, believe it or not, I do remember Ireland away, which would have been 1995, because I've always grown up with, I think it was the riot of Lansdowne Road. So obviously, and Euro 96 and Scotland and Holland, that was my earliest England memories.
Yeah, Ireland away was, yeah. I mean, I guess sort of those sort of memories, sort of tar sort of England fans, don't they? I mean, that was one of the, I'll say the last real episode like that, but I guess there was also Euro 2000. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to go down a hooliganism route, but yeah, let's look at, Euro 96. I mean, I've got fond memories of that, as I've said before, the Scotland game being there. But yeah, just at that time, everything came together for the team, for the country, and everyone felt good. It's amazing how sort of football can do that. The national side can do that to people, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. And my dad is a massive figure in my life, and he's a huge England fan. And we'd moved down south, and it was a time in my life, which I'll allude to in a moment anyway, but a lot of upheaval when I was young, and a lot of people have all got a story to tell, and things have happened. So I won't bore you with the inner details of it, but I do remember Euro 96, and obviously the Scotland game I'll always remember, because I remember the tension around the Gary McAllister penalty, into which David Seaman then saves. There's the fist pump, the ball launches down the field. I think it was, I want to say it was Steve McManaman or Darren Anderton. One of them looped it over the defender, comes to Gascoigne, left foot over the defender. Colin Henry's still probably getting up, and Gascoigne just slams it into that bottom corner. One of the greatest memories and burst memories is my dad just going absolutely out of control, I think is all I can say. And I was, looking at it, kind of understanding what was going on. And then obviously Holland, the bit I can remember was not so many of the goals, but it was that goal. It was the Gascoigne, Sheringham, Shearer. And from there, my football love was born. And from there, to be honest with you, Russ, I as I say, my dad went to work up north, and I had a lot of upheaval in my life, and I ended up, believe it or not, being fostered, which I won't go too much into. And basically, what I developed, I've been taken out of a family setting, and what sort of saved me and started to guide my life was football. And it wasn't playing football. It was statistical analysis in football. And the reason why I say this is, you go to someone's house, you don't know who they are. They're an elderly couple. And I found myself in a room, with sort of like all white walls. And I think it was a copy of Van Gogh's Sunflowers on the wall. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, but now I do. and all I had was a Premier League, Merlin's Premier League, 97 sticker album. And I learned the statistics of how much the grounds can hold, how much, the biggest transfers, the players themselves. And it was at that moment that I started to really learn about the players and learn about football itself. David Beckham at the time, I think Ruud Gullit was Chelsea manager, I think, at that sort of time. And my dad then obviously comes back down from North. Things get sorted out for me. And obviously we qualify in Rome in 98. And from there, my football journey, my life changed really for the better. And what happened at Euro 98 was probably when I cried for the first time following England. And I was, inconsolable at that tournament, to be fair, mate.
Oh, I think we've all been there. I mean, I remember sort of crying at Italia 90 of going out to the Germans in the semi-final. My parents not having the slightest of interest in football were like, what is he crying at? What, they'd never really sort of seen this in their family before. So, I mean, we've all been there. And then I think fair to say that 1990, 2004, 14 years later, I was doing the same. This time after a couple of drinks in a pub, though, after getting knocked out. It happens to us all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Getting emotional.
With like the sticker albums, I thought that they were a big part of my life really growing up. And I realized that like World Cup 98 in the lead up to it, obviously I was in a better place in life, shall we say. And I used all that knowledge to good effect with the sticker albums in the playground and all the stickers. Cause I knew, for instance, if I got like Georgie Hadji in the France 98 Panini sticker album, I knew that was a coveted sticker because I knew through learning about players, in some sort of dark times that I could get hold of. Do you know, there were kids like that were what was at the time, 11, 12 years old. An 11-year-old kid didn't really know how good Georgie Hadji was at the time, but I did, it was good for advantages. And I also remember these sticker albums because they were unofficial. Like you'd look at the England players and they didn't have like Umbro on them or anything like that. And I used to think, what's going on here? And the Sainsbury's coins as well. When you went to Sainsbury's, at the time they give out sort of like coins, player coins, and you could have like Darren Anderton on one. And World Cup 98, really, if I remember what Euro 96 was, but I really know what World Cup 98 was because that was the first time I felt football. I felt football properly.
Yeah, no, 98 was a good year of sort of if onlys, wasn't it? Like the group stage we went through, was it Tunisia in Marseille? We had Romania as well, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, Michael Owen got an equaliser against Romania. He was sliding on the floor, I think it was, just sweeping. Yeah. And then Colombia.
Colombia, that's right. Yeah. And then obviously, Argentina. Yeah, 98 was, I mean, I guess from a youngster's point of view, seeing David Beckham, I mean, we all probably had the same thought, but from a youngster's point of view, Beckham was front page everywhere and the best player in the country. To see what he did, I mean, how did that affect you? Like, playing for England?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was just falling in love with Liverpool, but was probably blissfully unaware of the, let's say, Liverpool United divide. And everyone at school supported Man United, but I had the Beckham haircut. You got to remember at the time, I'm about 11, 12 years old. He's with a Spice Girl. At the time, the Spice Girls are huge. So in, I don't know, pop culture and youth culture, back in the day, David Beckham was like the man, he was just, and at a time before social media too, Top of the Pops was big as you know, on TV. Sky Sports News probably wasn't even a thing then. I don't think it used to be called Sports Center, I believe, on Sky Sports, and Beckham would be on that and Match of the Day. And yeah, I mean, when he got sent off, I could not understand the sheer scale and magnitude of how he was treated, probably until I would say my teenage years, when you see back at the effigies, with obviously, from that pub sign, and we all know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And And it was the treble winning season it went into from there, I believe. I think United went on and won the treble from that moment. But actually, I remember the all-white kit, David Batty missed a penalty, Paul Merson making an absolute lung-busting, last-ditch diving tackle in England's box to stop Argentina from scoring. Sol Campbell having the goal wrongly ruled out for a foul, I think it was. And I felt every inch of it, like the school, everyone was behind England. The games were on in the middle of the day. You had the roller TV and, all that sort of stuff. And it was a big tournament for me personally, because I was in love with football, so to have it there was just absolutely huge. And then obviously from there was Euro 2000, wasn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, Euro 2000. Do we want to talk about that? It's kind of one of those tournaments that just passes everyone by, really, in history now, doesn't it?
It was weird. It was really weird. I remember the first match against Portugal. I think we went 2-0 up in no time. And then, obviously, I think it was Rui Costa and Figo. And from there, the whole thing, all I can remember from that tournament is Phil Neville's face after he's given the penalty away against Romania. And then obviously World Cup 2002, again, I was at college at this time, I was about 14, 15, had a paper round at the time, and Beckham and the metatarsal from, I think it was Dirty Ducher, they called him, from Deportivo La Coruña, when he fouled Beckham in the Champions League. And obviously, I think the newspapers at the time said, pray for Beckham, I think it was. And, I always remember, from a football nostalgia perspective, the champagne gold boots he sort of had were absolutely stunning. And I saved my money from the paper round to try and get them. Never got them, Russ. It hurts. And even to this day, I wanted them boots. Yeah, absolutely.
So by this sort of age, had you seen England in the flesh? Yeah.
That wasn't until 2005-6 was my first time.
Okay.
I'd been to watch Warsaw, my dad's a massive Warsaw fan, and I'd seen Warsaw through like the Ray Graydon years. A lot of people in Block 109 that are Warsaw fans that can understand this. Ray Graydon, when Kevin Keegan was England and Fulham manager, Warsaw got promoted along with Manchester City and Fulham from League One. It was Division 2 back then. And when we got promoted there, and I'd been up to Warsaw a lot of the time with my dad, but we'd never been to watch England. My dad tells me that I went to the Bescot once to watch England under 19s, and I was like, they played at the Bescot? He goes, yeah, the youth teams used to play at the Bescot a lot, and I think Alan Shearer played, but I can't remember it. But the first England match I ever had the privilege of going to was at Old Trafford. Obviously, Wembley is being rebuilt at this time. And we played Northern Ireland at home, and I can remember the team. It was the golden generation.
Ah, yeah.
It was just, that with Robinson, Neville, Cole, Ferdinand, Terry, Lampard, Gerrard, Beckham, Cole, Owen Rooney. It was a great team. And I remember going to Old Trafford and watching that match. And I went a few months later again to watch us beat Poland on an evening match. I think it was maybe 2-1, I'd like to say. Michael Owen and Ledley King played in the holding role. And it was at these games where I got 2 autographs, which I have to this day. And I treasure one above the other. And it was on an England program. At the time, it was the England programs were like a magazine, I remember.
Yeah, they were a right pain to carry around.
Yeah, I mean, but for someone like myself, with my dad driving me home in the car on the way home, who loves details and statistics and analysis, it was a Bible. It was incredible. So I didn't get to see England often, so I would treasure every bit of literature that I had. So the one autograph I got was Sir Bobby Robson. He was walking into the stadium, and he was really. He was starting to, it was 2005, and he was walking. He was a bit grumpy because he was surrounded by people. And my dad, I remember going, "You've got to get it, got to get it." And I grabbed the pen off of my dad. I got the pen, and it was a biro, and he was trying to write it. And I don't know if you've ever had it with a pen, and sometimes you have to sort of like lick it with your tongue or whatever to get it to work. But I don't think he licked it with his tongue, but he kept going with it, and he got it. And when I look at the program today, I can still see where he sort of scratched it in, and it's a bit of scratch and a bit of pen. But that physical memory is huge for me. Lovely. Because as I've got older, I realized that how much of an absolute legend this guy was. He found Ronaldo, that's how I see it, PSV in Holland, and people didn't really talk a lot about that. And also then I found Ian Dowie under one of the stats. And what struck me about him was how big he was. That really took me by surprise. And I said, "Can I have your autograph?" And he went, "Yeah, sure." And just got the pen to work instantly. And I was like, and I don't think you're going to get a more unlikely pair of autographs next to each other on an England programme.
Well, yeah, I guess it represented. That was the Northern Ireland one, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Represented both sides there.
Absolutely. So that was pretty cool, and it's in my sort of studio that I've got here, where I do my podcast in, next to a signed Paul Gascoigne bit of memorabilia as well. I love memorabilia.
Yeah, no, we've all got our own little bits that we probably other halves are called toots or something, but it certainly means a lot to us. Yeah. So England at home at Old Trafford there, did that sort of ignite sort of your England, your Patriots like side to following England then?
Well, England for me was a bit of a release, because at the time Liverpool, they did well at the turn of the century by winning I'd say the different treble. We did the different treble, and it's good.
Count.
Yeah, absolutely. And but England for me was the closest. Maybe Steven Gerrard aside, was the closest I got to see world class, bona fide world class players. And to the truth be told, I never really got to see England again for years after, through, I don't know, as I got a bit older, I met my wife, and circumstances dictated my ability to attend. However, I watched every England match at home without fail. I was a massive, massive England fan. I remember sitting down watching Steve McLaren, in that England team when he came in and he banished David Beckham and Jermaine Defoe. I think it was a statement more than anything. And he put his faith in Steven Gerrard and scored against Macedonia at Old Trafford, I think, roof of the net. And when he was in his hour of need, Steve McLaren, he turned to Beckham and Defoe. And I think it was in that moment that I realised it's not going to happen for him, because obviously he would have then lost the faith of the players, because you can't banish two players and bring them back in your hour of need. And just seeing him stand there with a brolly was probably the first time I felt, I'd been upset with England like we all had, but it was probably the first time I felt rage. I felt outraged actually at the fact that England manager wasn't running up and down the touchline in the pouring rain going absolutely berserk. He just stood there, and I felt like he didn't care. And if I'm honest with you, from 2008 through to probably, I'd say, to the end of 2014, I've never fallen out of love with England, but I watched every game and I watched every tournament, and I got my hopes up, and I got hurt, but I didn't feel, do you know what I mean? The bond that I had when up to 2006 and then post 2018 is what and it takes a lot for me as a football man through and through to admit it. I'd watch the England games, but I wasn't expecting us to do anything, because I thought at that time we were poor, if I'm honest. And
you're not wrong.
And it was, obviously I love my country. I did territorial army at the age of 16. I represented I love my country. And, but it was difficult to fall in love with, Capello ball, shall we say. It was tough. And I've heard on other podcasts when you went all the way down to South Africa, to watch England, and the gentleman on the other podcast that was released a few weeks ago, just before Christmas, I think he went down to Bloemfontein or South Africa, caught one game and we went out, so to spend all that money, I couldn't justify, is what I'm trying to say. I couldn't justify spending the money to go down to watch a team that was probably not really going to do anything.
Yeah, there's that disconnect. I totally get that. Yeah. We are so fortunate at this moment in time that there is a connect all the way around with England, be it from the manager, the players, the supporters in the stands. It's just all clicking, and we're just all hopeful that it's going to click in the right way at the right time. But take us to Wembley. When was the first time you got to Wembley to see England, or had you been there before?
Yeah, I've been there before to watch club football. So I'd been there, believe it or not, been from the southwest, Yeovil Town, got to Wembley, and they played Blackpool in a playoff, and
right.
I got there and watched that. Do you know what? Like the first time I watched England at Wembley, okay, it's going to sound absolutely bonkers now, Russ, and I think the fan base, for those that know me, are going to go, "Are you serious?" Was Andorra at home after the Euros. That was the first time I'd watched England at Wembley, and I think,
Really?
yeah, it was. I don't know. I'd invested a lot in other things, and I'd watch every England match. I'd sit there at work and I'd say to buddies before 2016, "Look, we've got to get out there. We've got to go. I want to go and watch England." And my mates would go, yeah, we'll do it. But it never materialized. It didn't happen. And do you know, Russ, the trigger point, the trigger moment came. I was visiting my nan in Walsall in the West Midlands. And this was just after the 2020, obviously the final when we lost, and my heart broken into, I still think UEFA have got my soul, after that. And,
along with your wallet.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. And I literally then my dad was driving me back, and to the southwest, there was a massive diversion. And we ended up going through Tewkesbury, and there was a lot of traffic. And in Tewkesbury, it's kind of, I don't know, oldie worldy. And we had a lot of time on our hands. And I said, we were talking about England, as you do, as a father and son would do, and would at length about England and where we're going and what do we do now, And I think it's a normal conversation that happens between a lot of fans up and down the country every day. I've been podcasting for a while, and I said, "Dad, should we just do it?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Should we just go? Let's just go to a tournament. What do we need to do to get to a tournament? What's the process? What's the way around it?" So I went online, much like your last podcaster. He went online. He found out what he needed to do, and we paid. I uploaded the passport photo. Come back as not recognised. Couldn't get the glare off of the passport. Going for absolutely ages, like we all do. I fell for the old Facebook trick when I managed to secure my first England tickets, and I went, "Yay, block 109 on Facebook." I'd never do that now. So I put that on there, and I bumped into a man called Kunal. So yeah, and the rest of the day is history. So, yeah.
No, that's the way we all start. It doesn't matter when. Some people literally just watch England on the telly for so long, and probably the same for their club sides. You get stuck into a way of, this is how I support my team, and I don't mind however people support their team. If they want to watch it on the telly, watch it on the telly. But if they want to get to the games, get to the games. But sometimes it's like, well, how do you get to the games? If you don't know, you've got to sort of seek it out. So yeah, seeking out the supporters club and the travel club is the way to do it. And I seem to remember you spoke with the supporters club, didn't you?
I did.
I think,
yes.
Was that shortly after joining up, or after a period of time?
I think it was probably, I went to Andorra. Ever since the Andorra game, I've been to like every single home game, and nearly, as many aways as I could, until I got to a caps level where I now can go to all the aways. So, I was probably about 6 to 8 months in, and I'd seen a lot of rumblings on Facebook with people saying, "Look, this website isn't fit for purpose. What is it that these guys actually do? How do I get caps? When are they going to be added? What extras are they going to give us?" And I thought, well, do you know what? At the time, I started to, no doubt we'll touch on, but I started to experiment in writing about football and putting that, statistical knowledge and stuff into good use, into an outlet for me personally. And I thought I'd contact the FA. I contact Richard Weeks, and he was fantastic. He said, "Yeah, in order for me to give a full published interview, you're going to need to speak to someone within the FA to get permission." Completely understand that. So I reached out to the commercial team, who were really forthcoming. They rang me back. We liaised. We waited until I think it was just after last Christmas. I think it was just after the World Cup. It was agreed before the World Cup, and it happened just after the World Cup, because obviously Rich and Lewis, who we all know now, obviously, they were busy clearly. So I sent them a load of questions and questions that I feel like the fan base needed answering. Like, what are you going to do about membership cards this time? What are you going to do about playing on the Wembley pitch? Are you going to bring it back? When do caps get added? What do we need to do? And what is it that you actually do? Or do you need help from us, the fans? Because England fans, I think, are the greatest in the world, and I mean it. If there was a match on the moon, there'd be England fans there. And for us to make this work, I thought it was important to speak to Richard and to get some real answers. Which, do you know what? I don't think he could have. I think he gave me as much as he could. In all fairness to the gentleman, and I thought he was very, very kind of him to give me his time.
No, I've been very fortunate enough as well. They will give you your time, but you just got to appreciate that they are busy, and they've got other things going on. I think is fair to say, and you can still find that article. It's on TTM Sports, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on there, and you can just go to ttmsports.co.uk or onto my Twitter or anything like that. You can just get a lot of articles on there. I write a lot at the moment, and I'm in the middle, obviously, doing a lot of stuff at the moment. So it's all pretty cool. It's a good one for. I really should have. I don't know if we all know Nick, who does a great job on the Facebook site, guiding people the right way. It's probably out of the realms of that, really, should we say? Yeah.
Well, one thing I'd like to mention or to point out, you say that like as soon as you joined up, managed to get to home and away games, and you're now in a position where, as we said at the beginning, fans first tickets. It just goes to show that it can be done. A little bit of luck with away games, I guess, and the balloting on that side of things. But from the last European tournament that was held, or obviously the final here, to now be in a position 4 years later to be going with nigh on maximum caps or to the point where you're getting fans first tickets just proves that it can be done. So I take my hat off to you there. What was the first away game then?
First away game was Munich. It was Harry Kane equaliser. I couldn't get. I'm so frustrated now because I would have probably got another 2 caps if I would have, let's say, had my eyes open. No, I sat in the home end with my dad and my good mate James. But the first ones that I got through the ESTC was the San Siro. I went there to that game and fantastic. And then obviously I went to obviously the next away game after that I got was Malta. And after Malta, I then went to Naples and Malta. I can't remember which way around it was. I went there. And then a really cool story was Scotland. So me and my dad had booked flights up to Scotland when the game was announced. He's about 4 caps behind me.
Right.
And we thought at the time, they're going to give us around 5,000-6,000. So we're thinking at this point, we're probably around 3,500. So I don't know if anybody else or any of you listeners has done this, but I've counted down the caps table to mathematically find out my, I don't know, in quote unquote position within the table to try and, work out what the odds are of me getting a decent ticket. So we booked our flights and booked the time off of work. And then when the allocation was announced, it dawned on us and thought, we might miss out here because it's a low allocation. So I cancelled
1,900, I think, wasn't it?
Correct. I cancelled my holiday with work. And for some reason we kept the flights, and I was 1 cap out. I was 1 cap short, and I went onto the waiting list. And I got the golden ticket on the waiting list, Russ. I got the email. My dad didn't, and I felt a bit of guilt. But then I thought to myself, nah, sod this. I'm going. I got on a plane because I said to work, look, I need to retake this time off. But unfortunately, it'd been allocated to someone else. He goes, I can only give you the day of the match off, James, but I need you in work tomorrow morning. I was like, I've just got like the golden ticket here is really helping my caps level. And I want to see us in Scotland for 150th heritage match. And, so what I did is I met someone called, Chris Cannon.
Yes.
What a guy, by the way, who I will see in Germany, no doubt. And, my plan was to leave Broome in Somerset, I know 20 minutes away from Bath near Bristol. I went to Bristol Airport. I got a flight at 7 o'clock in the morning up to Glasgow. I got into Glasgow really early in the morning. I then went up to Cathkin Park near Hampden, which is an abandoned football stadium that I'd seen on YouTube. I walked around it. I took pictures and since wrote an article, which is going to be published next month, which is cool. I then met obviously Kunal and the guys, and we went up to the cricket club where the first ever international was played and had a great time, where I met my second guest on my podcast, Steve Harrigan, where we had some beers. And, I then, after the match, I met Chris Cannon for the first time in the stadium, on that back concourse where it was quite flat there. We walked across the road together into his, van at Asda. Now, bearing in mind, I didn't know who this guy was at the time. So I was taking a bit of a leap of faith here. And this is what England does to you, I think. And, I got in the van and we drove from 11 o'clock at night all the way down from Glasgow, and he was going to Plymouth, and he dropped me off outside my house at 7:10 in the morning. I ran into my house, I got a shower, I got changed, I was out the door at 7:25, and I was in work at 5 to 8.
Marvelous.
And that for me typifies England in a nutshell. You know, it's crazy. And the frightening thing is, Russ, is I know I've got a lot more of this sort of stuff to come.
Yeah, we'd do it all again in a heartbeat, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah.
Well, in the time that we've got left, you've mentioned the podcast and the TTM. Just give us a little bit more about that, and then let's just round it all up by just looking forward to later in the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So TTM Sports started off in COVID. Like a lot of people at the time, a lot of people needed to pass the time. So I thought I'm going to start up a podcast inspired by Joe Rogan. And it started off, first of all, about conspiracy theories. And we got a guy around from Bristol. Now looking back on it, it's mental. We picked him up. He claimed he'd been abducted by aliens, and we sat around a table and we spoke about it. Obviously now transpired that it was clearly probably not true. But from there, we got comfortable podcasting, myself and James, who's a good mate of mine who also goes to England games. And I said, do you know what? Let's just talk footy. You know, he's a Tottenham fan, plenty of subject matter there. And obviously I'm a Liverpool fan, you know, and I thought, let's just talk. And I thought, I'm going to approach people. I'm going to start approaching people. And the journey it took us on is unbelievable. We got like the British Virgin Islands technical director on, Dan Neville. And from there, we got the Faroe Islands assistant manager, Ellie Heinzer, who's now a friend. The Gambia manager, Thomas Sanfier, and that opened up doors. So we then got Kevin Bond onto the show, Harry Redknapp's ex-assistant, Peter Drury, commentator, Matt Jarvis, former England international, Marcus Stewart, Ipswich striker. And yeah, we're over nearly 150 episodes, and we got Peter Ridsdale on, to tell the story of just what on earth happened at Leeds United, which was really cool, really good interview that we did with Peter. And from there, I as I said before on my podcast, I do have an England podcast as well. Of course, it's nowhere near the level and detail and intricacy and delicacy that yours offers. However, when I finished listening to yours, I felt that there wasn't anything of real note out there, you know. And I thought, well, do you know what? I'm going to make one. And the first guest I got on was Peter Shilton, who was a great guy, and he opened up about his footballing life. And obviously with my writing, you know, I'm also writing a book at the moment, and it's taken a long time. I never went to university. I never went to higher education. I'm doing it straight out of love for the game, and putting together, I think, all the skills and knowledge that I've acquired through my life to put it together. And it's going to be titled Follow England Away, which I think's perfect. I'm staggered that no one's released that title before. So now that, you know, now I've said it on air, hopefully no one can steal it. and it's testimonies of England fans' stories following England away from home. And a couple of people, just to mention, that I've got in the book, and they won't mind them being mentioned, is Mark Griffiths, who always tells a great story that you've had on your show before. What an episode that was, by the way. And also CJ Joyner. So that, so I've got a couple at the moment, and I'm still writing it, plan for release. Probably won't make the Euros, if I'm honest. I wanted to, but these things I don't think can be rushed. And I think it's a quality thing. And do you know what, Russ? I want to do it in life to basically, show the hand to the teachers that said you can't achieve nothing instead of being a class clown, and I wanted to go out and to show people, do you know what? Yeah, you can. If you put your mind to it, you can interview these people, you can release a podcast, you can raise money for charity. I've got world records now. I've done all sorts in football, but my family circumstances are to such a good extent now. My kids are getting older. I've now got time, and that's the key thing, isn't it? Is time.
Absolutely. Well, having read a lot of England fan written books, I can say that they're genuinely the best written books. So I look forward to hearing about that one as and when it's out. Take your time with it. That's the one thing I would say, and it will just go from there. We got to round it up quickly by talking about later in the year, Germany Euros. You're going to be there, likewise I am. Are we going to be coming home with it though?
Yeah, I made a prediction. I made a prediction after the last Euros that I said we wouldn't win in Qatar. I said we won't win in USA, but I said we'll win in Germany, and we'll be the first nation to retain it in 2028. Bold statement, yes, but actually, when we're looking at this situation, the last golden generation was 2006. A lot of square pegs in round holes, I think there. World-class players couldn't play together as a team. This is different. We've got bona fide world-class players that can play together. As far as I'm concerned, Gareth Southgate, I think we can all be in agreement that this is probably his last tournament for England. And, I think what a fitting way to go out if his 100th game in charge is the final in Berlin. I would be made up. I would put an England victory in a tournament up there with getting married and having kids. And I know that sounds a bit like heavy. I can almost imagine my wife in my head now looking at me going, "You've lost it." But no, it would mean that much. And to see it with my dad would be absolutely incredible. But also, yeah, I think we'll do well. And also with the England fans I've met along the way, the guys in Block 109 are just amazing and accepted me wonderfully. In Naples on my own, I went on my own and I spent time with those guys. I felt safe. I felt like with England, you're never too far away from another fan, and we're all like-minded and we're on the same team. So it's an absolute privilege to follow this great footballing nation and to be English.
Absolutely. I don't think I could put it any better. James, thank you very much for your time. Enjoyed that one. I know you're on Twitter. I think it's HarrisonJ87, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, and, absolutely right.
TTM Sports, you can Google that. Into the Lion's Den is the podcast as well. And yeah, keep us informed on the book.
Indeed. Thank you.
Many thanks to James there, James Harrison. His Twitter is HarrisonJ87. That'll take you to all his other football-related content. Look forward to that book. Hopefully, as and when that hits the shelves, we can speak again. I've always been very interested in fan-written books. As I mentioned previously, if you'd like to share your England journey, anecdotes, stories, memories, email me, 3lionspodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear them. I know listeners do too, as it's generally all the things we all relate to. So don't be shy, get in touch. Love to hear from you. I'll be back with you very soon, helping you fight these January blues away. Don't forget you can follow the show on social media. Just search 3 Lions Podcast. You'll find it there. Also, I know I've mentioned it before, but if you would like to contribute to the running, the hosting of the show, you can do so at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/3 Lions podcast. I'm appreciative of whatever you feel it's worth. Any donations go towards the hosting of the podcast. So until the next time, take care, stay warm. Cheers.